What's going on, people?
Hello.
Hello. Very exciting start to the week. It's Tuesday already. Yet another view of my office. How's your Wednesday Labor Day weekend?
Always good.
That sounds chill. How was it good?
I mean,
Was it not bad, therefore it was good?
yeah. Wait, hold on. Are those what's that is that a cherry blossom tree? Like has your background? What tree is that? What is
Yes,
that?
cherry blossom tree, my friend.
Yo, I like that. And the
Right?
LEDs too. I like that a lot.
Thank you very much.
Remind me tomorrow.
What was that? So that was probably someone else agreeing with the cherry blossom tree because he would say that's bad. By the way, the whole photo is black and white except for the cherry blossom, so it pops like it needed it because the cherry blossom always pops. But now it pops even more. So
Yeah,
top
that's tough.
good weekend. Anybody else? Anybody disagree? Anybody think Saab did not have a good weekend?
Worse than that, I think, in years.
All right, so we all agree.
This was great.
The Saab had a good weekend. I had a good weekend. I know that for sure. Spent 2 days outside and dehydrated. Now I'm good. So come on, anybody got anything else to add? Anybody see anything cool on TV? Anybody see a cool bird? Anybody, I don't know, catch a fish? Anybody?
Today,
What?
what you call it? Today, there's Travis Scott.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has a collab with McDonald's. So you can go to McDonald's and get a Travis Scott meal. So I'm about to go get that.
What's a Travis Scott meal?
It's like I don't know. It comes with a burger, fries, a Sprite, and like some Rager seasoning. But I love Travis Scott, so I'm gonna go show
You're gonna
some
go show some
support.
support by buying his McDonald's meal.
Yeah.
That's an interesting decision for the branding of Travis Scott, I think, but I wish him the best, I guess. Because I mean, all the greats, all the great musicians had a McDonald's meal. Elvis, Michael Jackson, Beethoven, they all had a McDonald's meal. That's just part of the game.
Yeah.
That's how you know you're on the right track when you think what's gonna take my career to the next level. A partnership with McDonald's.
Yeah. I didn't even know you could do that. Like I see like athletes like Team USA and stuff doing that, but I didn't know artists could do that. That's dope.
Yeah, yeah. All right, we got some real questions here. So I have a question. Is the latest video posted on Canvas section 2.2 day 3? Yes, it is. Last week we had 3 straight days of 2.2. Today we're going on to 2.3. Sid asked, Thread assignment 3 link isn't working for me. Could you check that, please? I absolutely will check that. Thank you very much, Sid. I'm going to make a note for that after class. Thank you very much.
Professor. So in the last minute quiz, I saw there's a question that has 3 dots. What does that mean? Are you is that mentioned in the video? The 3 dots symbol.
I think that was probably the 2.3 mini quiz, which isn't due till this next Friday.
Oh,
so, it's Saturday, so the 12th.
I probably just do it earlier. I do have multiple times to do it, right?
Exactly. Yeah. You have multiple attempts. That should keep you on your toes a little bit.
Yeah.
Be on the ball of your feet. It's bad for your ankles when you run, or your knees. But anyway, that we'll handle that. And yes, everything this week is due Saturday. Just because the week started a day late, I'll give you no Saturday.
Okay, perfect.
Due Friday. Okay, well, if no one has anything else, let's actually start learning some more discrete math. So I've been using a Karate Kid metaphor. You guys haven't seen Karate Kid, you should go see it right now. You can watch my lecture later when it's recorded. Just kidding. But the point is, in the Karate Kid, right, when Mr. Miyagi's teaching Daniel's son how to do karate, like at first he's just like washing the car, doing the fence, doing menial labor. But then he finds out actually like Like he's actually learning karate in the background, right? That's exactly what we're doing right now. Like we're doing a bunch of kind of truth tables and all of it. It seems really simple and boring. We're actually building up the tools, the wash on, wash off, that should do something interesting. And today we're going to do the first little glimpse of doing something really interesting. It's gonna be like the scene in Karate Kid where Daniel-san's like, oh my god, I don't learn anything. I was painting your fence, and he goes wash on, wash off, and he learns like, oh my god, I actually learned a little bit of karate. But we will get to it, and that's the goal for today. We are in like the beginning of the second act of Karate Kid, basically. So today we're going to learn section 2.3, which is this upside down again? Yes, it is. We're going to learn section 2.3, which is, let me do camera settings. Other camera. You know what? I can just manually rotate this. There we go. When you think you have it all set up for class, and then boom. That'll work. Cool. So we are on section 2.3, which is about the validity of an argument or arguments. And by the way, in math, when we say arguments, we just mean like the way you go from statements to conclusions, not actually people fighting. That's the great thing about math. Even though it's a bunch of arguments, you'll almost never find a math fight because it all comes down to facts and logic and stuff like that. It's almost impossible to have different opinions. But anyway, actually, I'll tell you what different opinions come in. But the point is, so we're at validity of arguments, and what is defined an argument is a sequence of statements. Here is a statement. The statements are like statements we know. They're things that are true or false. Where each statement follows logically from preceding statements. Is there a question? Yeah. So an argument is a series of statements where each statement follows logically from a preceding statements. And this is a lot like we talked about on day one of class, where we had like the different boxes and the links linking statements. This is exactly what it is, right? We said the big deal was, what's it mean to follow logically, right? That is the big, big deal. And that is what the main topic for today is. But let me give you an example. Oh, actually, yeah. And so a few more definitions. So some more definitions. Actually, no, I want to do that. Arguments start with your premises and end with conclusion. So it starts with the premises, ends with the conclusion. And so premises ought to say
What's wrong with it?
are statements we assume to be true. So that's the big thing. So every argument, right, for anything, you start with some premises. You start with some things that you say, these are true, and then you're arguing that that means the conclusion must also be true. This is some basic stuff. You know what I mean? I mean, let's go back to anyone that an argument about whether or not the toilet seat should go up or down, right? You start with some premise of you start with the premise of touching the toilet seat's gross, and then you go through some weird argument and go, therefore the toilet seat should always remain down, always remain up. I don't know where you land on that. The point is, yeah. So these are arguments. Let me do an example of an argument. Any questions on this? Sweet. Let's do an example then. So a really simple example would be, let's say we start the premises that if FW, and FW is a name, it's initials, it stands for fuzzy wuzzy. So if FW is a bear, then FW is fuzzy. So this is our first statement, our first premise. So I'll do conclusions in blue, maybe. So if FW is a bear, then FW is fuzzy. That's our first premise. Second premise says FW is a bear. So I'll just circle these in green. These are our premises. Assumed to be true. All right. So if FW is a bear, then FW is fuzzy. If that's true, and if FW is a bear, what can we conclude?
He's fuzzy.
He's fuzzy. If Fuzzy Wuzzy was a bear, then Fuzzy Wuzzy is fuzzy, and if Fuzzy Wuzzy is a bear, therefore Fuzzy Wuzzy is fuzzy. That's a very simple argument, right? And these little dots right here, these mean therefore. Oh, what's a good color? I'll use something. Let's say, I don't know, red. That just means therefore. Oh, you can't see the there. That just means therefore. And so what that means really is that given those statements before, therefore this must be true. That means we can conclude, the three dot signs means we can conclude this from this. So this is your first argument. However, I said, right? Oh, actually, yeah. So therefore means follows logically. See, the red makes sense. That's why it's red. There we go. Therefore, that means it follows logically. Once again, this whole class we talked about, this whole time we've been talking about follows logically is the big deal. We said that we're hiding a bunch of stuff and this follows logically, right? I don't want to hide anymore. Okay, I want everything to be out in the open. I want you guys to know everything. And so why does this follow from this? Right? It seems obvious, but once again, math, right? We're talking about going down to the absolute bedrock, right? We're talking about not assuming anything. So it's like this makes sense to us as adult humans that have had 20 years of experience of talking and things like that. But if you actually had to describe someone why this is true, how would you do it? Let's go through this. So let's talk about argument forms. So the argument form for this for the above argument goes like this. P implies Q and P, therefore Q. So once again, these are your arguments, or these are your premises. This is your conclusion, and the therefore is saying follows logically.
Professor, I cannot see the last line you just wrote.
Thank you very much. Well, I'll just keep it there and I'll erase it as that. Yeah. So notice that I built this. So swivel. There we go. Yeah. So notice that this is just this argument right here where Fuzzy Wuzzy's a bear, that's P, and Fuzzy Wuzzy's fuzzy, FW's fuzzy, that's Q. Right? So all we're saying is the argument form for this argument, because really what P and Q are here, the specifics doesn't really matter. right? The form of the argument is this. You could imagine replacing the P and the Q here with any if then, right? You could imagine saying like if the football season happens, then Virginia Tech will win the championship or something like that. And if Q is the football season happens, therefore Virginia Tech will win the championship. Like whatever it is, right? I mean, you could slide in any statements here, and as long as your premises are true, you should be able to conclude the conclusion. Is that making some sense? So, I mean, it does make sense that this is the kind of like the general abstract form of this, right? Be good there? Are we not good? I'll assume we're good. I hope we're good. Because this is important. The idea that this is just this, where you replace the particular statements with a P and Q. So let's erase. It's about to get real interesting. All right, so there we go. So, argument form is argument with kind of abstract logical variables rather than concrete statements. Right. So example is the one we just did. P implies Q, and P, therefore Q, right? This argument, right, works for any P and Q. For any P and Q that satisfy the premises, then we know the conclusion must be true.
Step by step, one topic at a time. This is a self-paced online course spread out over 40 lectures. But that's not it. Watching
Is
people
someone listening to a self-paced online course spread across 40 lectures?
is not just about videos. It's about doing. It's
If
about
you're thinking
actually
like,
going to watch the instructor build 3
I
sample
don't think he
projects,
quite realizes that he's unmuted.
other projects yourself, and turn them into
hello. Oh, it's gone. Good. Okay, cool. This course is not self-paced. It's paced by me, myself. Well, actually, I guess self-paced for me, but not for you guys. Anyway, the point is, yeah. So argument form are these general arguments right here. And we say an argument form is valid. Valid's a big deal here. If, whenever, and I'll use premises here. Whenever the premises, I'll say, zero argument form is valid if whenever the logical variables P and Q are as so whatever we use, etc., like that, make the premise true. Then the conclusion must be true. So this all means to be valid. To be a valid argument, that means that whatever P and Q are, if P is true, Q, like whatever truth values P and Q have, right? If it makes the green true, if it makes the premises true, then the conclusion must follow. And that's important because if saying an argument's valid, that means, okay, well, we can use it. We can just plug in P's and Q's, and no matter what P and Q are, if the premises are satisfied, then we know the conclusion will be satisfied. So here's where we finally go over that. How do you prove an argument formed to be valid? Because having this therefore Q here, this argument, like saying this argument is valid means this therefore is in fact a therefore. It means Q does in fact logically follow from the premises. The conclusion does in fact logically follow from the premises. So how can you prove that an argument form is valid?
You could probably use a truth table.
Probably the truth table. You're totally right. So the first step is to just look at the definition. An argument form is valid if whenever the logical variables make the premise true, then the conclusion must also be true. So in order to prove an argument form to be valid, all you need to do is show that for any combination of P and Q where the premise is true, the conclusion is also true. And I'll give you a few proofs on how you can do that. You only need one, right? To prove something, you only need one proof. But I'll just show you 3 different ways to prove. Proof 1. Let P and Q be statements such that P implies Q. So we were saying such that P implies Q, that means P implies Q is true. And P is true. I'm gonna do this pink and this orange. You see why in a second. By definition of P implies true, we have the following truth table. And I'll move the camera. There we go. So we get this truth table like that. And remember the truth table for P and Q, right? If they're both true, it's true. This is the only case it's false. And then if P is false, you serve vacuously true. So notice, this is just what P implies Q is. So if P implies Q is true, that means you must be in one of these columns here. Right? But if P is also true, that means if P is true, that means you're in one of these columns here. Right? So the only thing, or rows, I mean. So the only thing that makes both of them true is the intersection of this, which is this column right here. And notice in this row right here, where both our premises are satisfied, what's Q?
True.
Exactly, right? So the only row where both P and Q are true and P is true has Q also true. So therefore, for the premise to be satisfied, Q must be true. Does that make sense? That's the first proof. It's kind of a maybe more informal proof. Proof 2, This is a classic one. Truth tables, right? Let P and Q be statements. Then let's look at the truth table. So we have P, Q. P implies Q. And that's actually all we need. Yeah. Actually, this is kind of the same argument. Actually, looking back, I was thinking these are two different things in my head, but they're actually the exact same argument. Because all you do, so all we're doing with the truth table is showing, sorry. So there's really only two proofs I'm going to show you. But anyway, so this is the truth table way, right? Just based on the truth table for P and Q, or for P implies Q, you can see that if P implies Q is true and P is true, therefore Q must be true. So proof 2 is using our logical laws. Let P and Q be statements. You guys see that? Or am I way off? I'm way off. You see that now? There we go, yeah. So P and Q be statements. Assume P implies Q is true and P is true, like that. Then true equals P implies Q and P by definition of and, right? And this equals, actually, this is an important little stopping point right here where I want to go over something. I think I went over this, but I'm not sure if I went over it, and I actually circled it and made it really clear. Let's do an aside here. P implies Q based on the truth table. Remember, we said the ways that P implies Q is true is if P is false, yours is going to be vacuously true. So either P can be false or P can be true and Q can be true. We went over that, right? I think we did because that's how we figured out how we could get the negation. But anyway, let's notice that we can work with this right here, right? This is going to be not P. If we use our distributive law, this is going to be not P or P, and not P or Q by distributive law, and then not P or P. What's that going to be?
1.
What was that?
True.
It's always true.
Yeah. Well, so not P and P will always be false because something cannot both be true and false at the same time, right? But not P or P, it's always going to be true. Because remember, a statement's either true or false. So either P is true or not P is true, right? So not P or P is guaranteed to be true. And not P or Q. And then we had some name for that law. And then right here, true and not P or Q, right? Just think of not P or Q as one statement. So true and this. If you have true and something, what's that equivalent to?
It's just whatever the second statement is.
Whatever the
because
second
that's what
statement
it's.
is, right? Yeah. It's like if I say I'm a human, right? And I'm wearing shoes right now. If that statement's true, well, you know I'm a human. That's true. So what that boils down to then is that I must be wearing shoes, or that whole thing's true. That might have been a weird thing to do, but the point I think you see, I'm saying that if this and this are true, well, you're like the and statement, right? The and statement's true only if both are true, but you're guaranteed the left side's true. So then it just comes down to what the right side is. This is another one of our laws that we had. You can prove that using a truth table. But yeah, so the point is not P or Q. I'm sorry, P implies Q is logically equivalent to not P or Q. Write that down somewhere. That's important. And that's why not P and Q is then equivalent to not P or Q, which by distributed, which by De Morgan's law will be P and not Q. Little review. Any questions on that? Good. And back to arguments. So, what we're saying here, right, is that remember we're trying to prove that whenever the premise is satisfied up here, the conclusion must also happen. That this necessitates the conclusion to be true. And so we're saying, okay, let's assume P implies Q is true and P is true. Then we have that P implies Q and P is true by definition of and. And then we have that P implies Q, we just said that equaled not P or Q and P. And that is true by, I'll say, equivalence of if then that we just showed. And then what can we do from here?
Distribute.
Distribute, right? Yeah, we can distribute this and P. Remember, well, what are we trying to prove? We're trying to prove that if this happens, we're trying to prove that these two things being true make Q true, right? Or basically equivalent to Q being true, or are equivalent to Q being true. So, or at least we conclude that. So the point is, let's go here. So then we can distribute, right? So this is going to be not P and P, or Q and P. And this is by the distributive law. And then this is going to be not P and P. What's that?
False.
False, right? Something can't be true and false at the same time by our definition of statement. So this is going to be false, or Q implies P, since not P and P is a contradiction. Then what do we have here? If we have an or statement, right, but one side is false, what's that equivalent to?
Just whatever the right side is.
Whatever the right side is. Exactly, right? Because, remember, I think this is our absorption law. But the point is, the reason this works is because if you have an or statement that's true, that means one of them's true. But if you know the left side's false, the right side that's got to be where it is, right? Or if you have an or statement that you know is false, that means both of them is false. So the left side's false and the right side's got to be false. So the whole or statement will go whichever way this goes. That's why they're equivalent. But anyway, what's P?
True.
Yeah, we're assuming P is true. That's our premise. This is Q and true by assumption. And then finally, if Q and, so if you have Q and true, what's it equivalent to?
Just Q.
Q.
That's Q, right? Because if Q is true, we'll get true and true, which is true. If Q is false, we'll get false and true, which is false. So the whole and statement's going to go whichever way Q goes. The point being, we just showed that if P implies Q and P is true, that all comes down being equivalent to Q being true. We have true is equivalent to this, equivalent to this, equivalent to this, all equivalent to Q. Therefore, Q is true. So, you don't need both these proofs, right? If you're ever trying to actually prove something, if you're ever trying to actually prove something, you only need to prove it once, right? I just showing you two different ways to do it. The point is, we just made extra sure. We just made extra sure that whenever the premises are satisfied, the conclusion must be satisfied just by our definitions of what if then means and logical laws and all that, right? This just comes from truth tables. Nothing special is happening here, right? Because remember, even if we use the logical laws, those logical laws, each logical law has a truth table behind it, right? So it all comes back to truth tables. So nowhere here do we really make any assumptions. So, by our proofs, whenever P implies Q and P are true, Q must be true. So, argument is valid. Or argument form is valid, maybe I should say. Any questions on that? This seems really simple. But what we did is actually amazing. What we just did is we proved beyond any doubt, right? All you have to do to prove what we proved is assume that statements are things and things can be true and false at the same time, right? Like if you assume you have statements, everything else just comes from definitions. That's it. We just define what if then means. We define what and means. Whenever you have this premise, you can conclude the conclusion. That's why you put it therefore. So whenever these are true, therefore that's true. That's what we just showed. Cool. I feel like it's not mind-blowing yet, but this is at the very bottom. This is it, people. Right? Like if you didn't show this right here, you couldn't make any mathematical argument. It wouldn't be founded on anything. Right? It would be founded on a giant assumption that this argument works. But we just proved this argument does work. So all right. So that's what it means for an argument to be valid, and that is how you prove it. So, or an argument form to be valid. So we're going to say an argument. So we just went over what an argument form means to be valid. An argument is valid if its argument form is valid. And may or may not need an apostrophe there. Don't copy these notes directly. But anyway, yeah. So or if its argument form is valid. So let's go over this question right here. If an argument is valid, is its conclusion true? What do you guys think?
No, and I think that because logical fallacies exist, and this is what they're based on. Where like somebody makes some sort of argument and then has some like misgivings of logic that they use to their own benefit.
Yes. I see what you're saying. And I think what you're saying is adjacent to what I'm trying to get at here. So logical fallacies do totally exist. You're totally right about that. But yeah, sure, let's go with that. But specifically, what can go wrong with an argument? Because we just said an argument being valid, that means that if their premises are true, their conclusion is necessarily true. So if you make a valid argument, what could possibly go wrong and make the conclusion not true?
You could have issues with the premises.
Yeah, exactly. No. What if the premises are not true? Example. Let's say we have, if Daniel Valvo is wearing a tie, then he feels fancy. Feel all dressed up. So Daniel Valvo's wearing a tie, then he feels fancy. Then we have Daniel Valvo is wearing a tie. Therefore, Daniel Valvo is feeling fancy. Is this premise, is the argument form true? Yes, the argument form is true. Because note, argument form is just P implies Q and P therefore Q, right? This is the stuff we've been doing so far. So this argument form is totally valid. So I'll say argument is valid. Argument is valid. Oh, you guys can't read that. It's just argument is valid. But is this argument correct? Is the conclusion necessarily true?
No, because you're not wearing a tie, right?
I'm not wearing a tie. Right? I'm not hiding it. It's not, it's not, yeah, no, I'm not wearing a tie, right? Verify I'm not wearing a tie. So, and at the moment, I don't feel particularly fancy. So, I'll say, note, false. Note, I am not wearing a tie. So an argument's valid means that whenever the premises are true, the conclusion must also be true. But here the premises are not all true. So even though the argument form is valid, the argument is a valid argument. It would be true if it would be a correct argument if the premises are true, but here they're not true. So no, I am not wearing a tie. So we cannot conclude I'm feeling fancy.
Quick question.
Go wrong, right? However, so that's going on right there. But note, by the way, we cannot conclude I'm feeling fancy. That doesn't mean I'm not feeling fancy. Maybe I'm wearing a cummerbund, right? Right? There's other ways for me to feel fancy. It just means based on the information you have, which is just this information right here, you cannot conclude I'm feeling fancy. Does that make sense? Yeah, it makes sense. So, yes. So, this is the big dog. An argument is correct / we can conclude whatever the conclusion is if the argument is valid and the premises are all true. Boom. Boom. And these are very, this is the whole thing. This is very, very important. And this is in everything. This is in debates and law and all that, right? I mean, like, for example, if you're in a court case, right, and someone goes like, if you were there, like that makes some whole argument, and they're like, therefore, if you were in the convenience store at 7:45, that means you're the one that stole the freaking sriracha almonds or something like that, right? But that is all dependent on the fact that you were there in this convenience store at 7:45. If their premise is incorrect, their argument is not correct, right? And therefore, you cannot conclude the conclusion. Doesn't mean the conclusion is not true. It just means you cannot conclude the conclusion from the information you have. Make sense? This is pretty neat. This is for real. Like I feel like right now you have no context for how important this is. But this, what we did just now, proves everything. Like is at the base of every mathematical proof, which is the way we know things in the world are true. All right. Moving on. Oh, let's do a quick example of an invalid argument. So what that looks like. So not all arguments are valid. How to prove an argument invalid. Example, let's do an argument that says P implies Q and Q, therefore P. This is not valid, right? This is the whole converse being different from original conditional statement that we went over in frankly annoying detail, exhausting detail last time. Right? But the point is, how can you prove that this is an invalid argument?
Truth table?
Truth table, specifically, what are you looking for in the truth table? Well, let's start here. What's it mean for an argument to be valid?
P implies Q true and Q true for P to be true.
Yeah. If this argument was valid, it meant that for all P and Q, it meant that whenever P and Q make the premises true, it makes the conclusion true. So in order to prove it invalid, you have to find one setup for P and Q where P implies Q is true and Q is true, but P is not true. I'll write that down. To be valid for any P and Q that make the premises true, the conclusion must be true, right? So for any P and Q that's to be valid. To be invalid, there is at least one example of P and Q that makes the premises true. But the conclusion false. Because then it's invalid. If you can't say that whenever premises are applied, the conclusion is true, then your whole argument's invalid. Because that means that even if you have a situation where the premise is true, you can't say the conclusion is true because it might be this case. So, proof. It comes down to finding a counterexample. And you can do that by filling out a truth table until you find one. And so I'll say, but one that you can find is, I'll say counterexample. Let P be false and Q be true. Then P implies Q is vacuously true and Q is true. So the premises are satisfied. However, P is false. So argument is invalid. Does that make sense? What we're saying here is we found an example for P and Q, right, such that the premises were true, but the conclusion did not follow. Here, the conclusion, P, was false. And so what that means, if you're actually trying to make an actual argument with actual statements, right, for example, if the statements were, you know, like, if I'm wearing a tie, then I feel fancy, and you know I feel fancy, can you conclude I'm wearing a tie? No. If I'm wearing a cummerbund, maybe I feel fancy for some other reason, right? Maybe I just got invited to some gala, to some ball, right? Maybe I just watched my VHS tape of the royal wedding, right? You know, there's many ways I can feel fancy. Any questions?
Oh yeah, actually I have one.
Sure.
So when it's vacuously true,
Yep.
when P is false and Q is true, is that the only scenario where the argument could be invalid, or are there other scenarios?
Good question. Yes. The only scenario with this particular argument, because there's going to be a lot of arguments we're going to do. The only time where this particular argument could be invalid is when P is false, because in the case where P is, like, if we only look at the case where P is true, well, if it satisfies the premises, you know that Q must also be true, right? And so, but then, so, kind of like, if we're assuming P is true, well, then P is going to be true. You know what I mean? And so it's automatically going to be valid in the case where P is true. But that's not the only way we can satisfy the premises in this case. Yeah. So, for example, I mean, if your argument had three premises, if you said, if you assume P implies Q, you assume Q, and you assume P, well, therefore P. But, you know, that's not saying much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
I had a question.
Yeah, hit me.
So with the kind of like offhand like convenience store example, you said something along the lines of like, if you were at the convenience store, that then you committed the crime there or whatever.
Yeah.
And this is not necessarily true because P doesn't necessarily imply Q, right?
Good question. So, what I was saying there is that, so in all these arguments, when we're talking about valid or invalid, you know what I mean? You have to make the premises true. And so the convenience store example, what I was saying there is that if it's assumed true, if for whatever reason both sides in the courtroom agree that whoever was at the courtroom did the crime, or sorry, whoever was at the convenience store at 7:45 did the crime, right? If you assume that to be true, you would still need to show that, like, the defendant was there at 7:45 to prove him guilty, right? If you can't prove that, well then, you know, it's a good argument, but it's invalid. Sorry, it's a good argument. It's a valid argument, but it's incorrect because your premise that he was there at 7:45 might not be true.
I guess what I'm saying is I'm asking if that argument is invalid because the implication is not necessarily true.
Yeah, that's kind of a bad example. I probably shouldn't have said that example because we know nothing about this court case, right? But yeah, you can also have an invalid argument if your if then was false. Or sorry, it wouldn't be invalid, but it would be a incorrect argument if your if then was false. So for example. You could have, let's say we say, if I am over 18 years old, I can be president. And then you have that I am 24 years old. Therefore, I can be president. So I'm 24 years old, so I'm over 18 years old. So based on this argument, I can be president. This is a valid argument, but this premise is incorrect. You have to be 35 years old and born in the United States to be president and to win the election. But yeah, you see what I'm saying there? So either one of your premises can fail. If either of your premises fail, and you can have more than two premises, and a general argument you could have 4, 5, 6, as many premises you want. If any of your premises fail, right, then your argument is no longer correct. You cannot conclude your conclusion. It could be valid, but incorrect. Make sense?
Yes.
Perfect. Cool. Thank you for bringing that up. 3:30. That's a good place to stop. We will do the rest next time. And yeah, no, we're done. We're done. But we went a little slower today than I wanted to, but I hope it made sense because this is oh wait. Let's stop recording. Because I've said it 1,000 times.